Most urban legends we know of today have been around for a fairly long time. Legends like La Llorona, Kuchisakiana, and Bloody Mary have been scaring the living daylights out of children for decades. And despite being old tales of legend or folklore, they continue to be ever so frightening. Likewise, the legend we'll be discussing today has been around for a good while. In fact, it's actually one of the first few legends that I've ever heard. And although it's an oldie, it's still a goodie. So, without further ado, sit back, relax, and let's talk about the stare. One late night, a girl, Daisy, was on her way home from her late night class at her college campus. Unfortunately, she missed her bus, so she opted to take the subway instead, despite it leaving her 3 blocks away from home. She hopped on the first subway train she saw, and noticed that there was no one on board, aside from 3 people. 1 woman, and 2 men on either side of her. Daisy paid no attention and decided to grab a seat across from them. She took out her textbook, and decided to sneak in some extra reading time as she rode the subway. 1 stop later, Daisy ended up glancing up at the trio of people right in front of her and was a bit startled that the woman was staring back at her. Confused, Daisy simply smiled back and continued to read her book. However, despite continuing her reading, she had this unnerving feeling that someone was staring at her. And so, she took her eyes off her book and noticed that the woman was staring at her. The woman's eyes were wide and stared at her with this unrelenting cold dead stare. Daisy once again turned away, but despite this, the woman kept staring at her. After some time, Daisy began to feel incredibly creeped out, but had no idea what to do. Just as Daisy was about to stand up and move to avoid the stare, another man wandered into her train car at the next stop. He looked around, and despite there being dozens of seats to choose from, he sat next to Daisy. Daisy paid no attention to this tall man who wore a long gray trench coat. She glanced at him from time to time, but the woman's unrelenting staring kept her from paying much attention to anything else other than the woman. Daisy stared at the woman and was anxiously waiting for her stop to come by so that she could get off and be done with this disturbing one-sided staring contest. After some time, Daisy simply tried to pretend as if she didn't notice the woman, but each and every time she looked over to see if the woman was still staring, she was. By this point, Daisy was only 3 stops away, and Daisy waited there patiently. As the train pulled up to the next stop, the man with the trench coat grabbed Daisy's arm and held it firmly. He then whispered to her, "You need to get off this train now." Daisy complied, afraid of what this man may do. As he dragged her out of the train onto the platform, the two looked in horror as the subway train door closed. The man and Daisy were all alone on the platform, and the man was still holding onto her. Daisy took a glance at the man and began to scream, calling out for help, to which the man responded with, "Hey, hey, hey, calm down, please. I'm a doctor, and I'm really sorry if I scared you. I didn't mean to. Please just let me explain. The woman sitting opposite of you was dead, and the other 2 men were propping her up."